of May 2022, Ministry of Finance launched the 48.1 trillion shillings budget for the next financial year, that is 2022 to 2023, which is to be presented on the 14th of June. But ahead of the budget reading, the high level of Uganda's public debt is in a worrying state, which analysts believe should be worked on if the economy is to recover steadily. Let's get more about that.
Is set to borrow 9.7 trillion shillings in a bid to finance its national budget for the year 2022-2023 under the theme Full Monetization of the Economy through Commercial Agriculture, Industrialization, Market Access and Digital Transformation. The budget framework paper shows the total resources available for the government expenditure will be obtained from both external and domestic forces. Christine Biringiro from the Uganda Debt Network says the national debt is at the same level with the service delivery, and the national budget debt servicing has over 7 trillion allocated, which will affect allocation of funds to various sectors.
That the debt that has been skyrocketing or increasing, sometimes we see that we do not utilize this debt properly. When we acquire this debt, the loans, whether domestically or externally, we see that we sometimes acquire them when we are not ready to use this money, and yet it attracts costs. Yeah, we are always paying interest on this on some of these loans, and so if we do not use it in time, so that we are able to generate commensurate returns to be able to pay back, then we see ourselves getting more and more into a debt trap. As we stand, we have already gone beyond the 50% threshold that is recommended for the debt to GDP, and we see our revenues as a country are increasingly becoming inadequate to both service our debt, but also be able to service the other sectors of the economy.
Christine believes that the country can, however, control the rate at which we are borrowing and make good use of the money we borrow, which will address the economic situation we are in as a country.
Appetite to borrow and our appetite to consume. We can scale down our expenditure. The size of parliament is too big. Over 500 members of parliament are too many. Over 80 ministers are too many. Over 100 districts are too many. We can try to control that, but also we must borrow only when it is necessary. We borrow when we are ready. According to the Auditor General, there are so many loans which are non-performing to the tune of over 1.3 trillion. And this is a lot of money. It is almost an entire budget for now the health, sub-program, about 1.4. So the Inspector General of Government came out last year and said we lose about 9 trillion annually in corruption. And so if we were to check on some of these things, if we were to tighten the noose around the corrupt and make sure we do not have some of these leakages, I believe we would be better placed to be able to address our situation.
Meanwhile, Brenda Kankunda, a trade and investment policy analyst from Siatin, Uganda, has highlighted that there is a worry that the country will seek for extra funds through borrowing to fund this budget. She believes the country needs to change avenues by broadening our tax base in order to finance this budget.
Sense of it is also becoming a huge repercussion for our economy, because we see a lot of revenue being committed to just debt servicing instead of being allocated to maybe some of the sectors that are fundamental for the economy's growth. And if we are unable to raise the revenue, for instance, for this financial year, we've not seen Ministry of Finance or URA putting in place new tax bills, which literally means that we are only going to rely more on those that have been in place. And much as they talk about the issue to do with compliance and efficiency, that is what they want to work upon, we also believe that as a country, we can be able to meet that target if there is compliance in terms of how we remit our taxes. Because what we usually see in place is that there's a lot of tax avoidance and tax evasion, which means that even URA is not able to collect the revenue that it ideally it targets to collect, and that creates that shortfall that we see even for this particular financial year that is about to end. We've already seen a revenue shortfall.
Uganda's national budget for the financial year 2022-2023 will be read on the 14th of June under the theme Full Monetization of the Economy through Commercial Agriculture, Industrialization, Market Access and Digital Transformation.
Moving on to financial markets. Now, due to the increased level of fraud in the financial market, the Capital Markets Authority and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution have today signed a memorandum of understanding to carry out joint prosecution against capital market offenders. Let's get more on that.
The establishment of the mutual cooperation and collaboration between these two institutions will extend to exchanging of information aimed at promoting the equality of prosecutions relating to capital market offenders. The Capital Markets Authority and the Office of the Director of the Public Prosecutions will conduct joint trainings of staff on enforcement of capital markets legal framework with an aim of building capacity to fight the increased fraud, which has led to many people losing funds.
There are many people who claim to be fund managers who are in direct violation of our fund management regulations, essentially taking money, claiming to invest, give people a return is wrong. So there are many people who out there who have been deceived by the prospect of very high returns and fall prey. It's only when they realize that the interests are not coming in on time, or the offices where they signed up are closed, that they start realizing they're in trouble, and then they're told the Capital Markets Authority exists. We have received a number of complaints from the public. I think so far we have received about several complaints, but about 5 different entities, which are at various stages of prosecution and investigation. Some of the challenges we've had are the turnover of investigators, but that is something we're working on with the Uganda Police Force to ensure there's continuity and no breaking investigations to ensure swift prosecution of these offenders. But again, we want to use the opportunity to tell the public that please do not fall prey. Don't remember that we're there and come to complain to us only when you've lost money. Many times it's a bit too late. Recovery is difficult, as the DPP said, but it's not impossible. So be warned and avoid. They say prevention is better than cure, so don't fall prey. Don't get conned by very high and attractive returns to your money. You might lose all your money. You might think about a high return on your investment, forgetting that you may not get a return off your investment. Thank you.
The Director of the Public Prosecutions, Jane Francis Abodo, says this union is very instrumental in boosting the economy of the nation in relation to attracting foreign investors.
You know that without a crime-free society, without investors having confidence in the security of the country, they can't come. When they know that cases are reported and they are never prosecuted successfully, when they come and they know that you can actually commit a crime in Uganda and the police will not investigate, or the office of the DPP is not going to prosecute it, the courts are going to let off people, maybe with offenses for sentences which are laughable or which don't reflect justice. No one will come to invest in our country. So that's why this partnership is very, very important. We are going to be jointly doing a number of things.
According to the most recent Annual Crime Report 2021, economic crimes, most especially capital markets related, increased by 9%, moving from 10,057 cases in the year 2020 to 10,966 cases in 2021. Currently, the Capital Markets Authority is handling 8 cases, which are all at various stages of prosecution. This memorandum of understanding will be influential in quickening the access to justice for the victims. Barija Andrew, Smart 24.
Now let's cross over to the health sector department. Now, for any institution to get more funds, they have to submit a report on the current use of the former use of the funds that they were given. Now, the Public Accounts Committee has raised concerns over the incompetence of the MUBENDE referral hospital officials. This is due to the failure to submit the financial year reports ended 30th June to the Ministry of Finance in time for for funds. So let's get more about that.
During the Accounts Committee's investigations on the MUBENDE Referral Hospital officials, headed by the Accounting Officer Dr. Alex Adema, in his submission, the hospital director shows that there was a delay in the submission of the reports to the Ministry of Finance.
What was the deadline for submission?
It is supposed to be for Q1, which ends in September. It's supposed to be 15th of October.
And when did you submit?
Well, this date is, we submitted before 15th of October, but because of reviews and to and fro movement of the documents, the last submission was in January. And that was the date noted for our submission.
The hospital management was supposed to submit its performance reports for Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4, but instead submitted them after the submissions deadline. Tumshime Charles, the hospital's principal, as well as a planner, says that the delays were due to COVID-19 lockdown, which restricted them from accessing these premises as well as moving.
The hard copy which we submit and it's stamped received is the one that is being reflected here because the auditors went by the date on the data of received. That one, it's true, it delayed because of two different reasons. The one which the director has already explained, but if you remember also at the height of COVID, ministries and other agencies restricted access to the premises, so we could be having the copies, but even submission physically was a little bit difficult for us.
Hear what Dr. General said. I didn't obtain evidence to confirm that the accounting officer prepared monitoring plans and reports which are important in ensuring that the budget performs as expected. And what was your response? The quarterly performance reports are usually submitted before the deadlines. However, due to resubmission after review, corrections by the Ministry of Finance, the latter date is recorded as the date of submission. Again, your explanation to the Auditor General is at variance with the explanation that you are giving.
The submission of the hard copies is physical, and
Yes.
movement was a little bit difficult around that time, and some ministries and agencies had actually stopped physical visits.
However, committee members insisted that doctors are essential workers and thus could move freely during lockdown, further stating that this shows the incompetence of administration.
And I was a bit hesitant to give him information. Chair, during COVID, these people were classified as essential workers. So when you tell us that you are not accessing premises, what do you mean exactly when you were carrying, and here when I'm talking, because when you were talking, my microphone was off. So when I'm talking, you should be off because here will give you time to respond. So what do you mean, yet you are essential workers? That is one. Two, Honorable Pende has just put it, that maybe it is because of incompetence. I want you to tell this committee that when you make your submission online, and it is accurate, that will not be approved.
The later date you are quoting is not when you first submitted them. I am beginning to think that the people responsible are not competent enough. Or if they are competent, then they are sleeping on their job. They are not taking their work seriously. Because, Chair, for you to be able to beat this deadline and even ensure that you are within time is to send your reports in time. If a quarter, for example, January, March, and you're supposed to, the last submission date is 15th of April, then you must ensure that maybe by the 2nd or 3rd of April, you have submitted your report to allow for the corrections between finance and yourselves, and you still find yourself within that deadline.
In conclusion, the chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee says that this could be a sign of corruption, but because they have realized their mistakes, they will be given a benefit of doubt.
When you look at the 4 quarters in the year under review, none of their reports was submitted in time, which shows that there is incompetence, but sometimes these delays point to corruption and fraudulent tendencies. So we only hope that the planning unit, the accounting unit in future are going to style up. Fortunately, they did admit that there were delays and they promised to correct the mistakes. We will give them a benefit of doubt. The Public Accounts Committee is still here. We only hope that when they come next year, we will not be getting the responses we got today. So we shall give them that benefit.
Okay, moving on to environment sector. As we all know, that the celebration for sustainable environment will be happening on 5th of June. So the environment sector has come out with their challenges. I was speaking at the Press Uganda Media Center. The Minister of Environment and Natural Resources sector said that it's the most underfunded sector, stating that allocated funds pay only salary and office running, which has hindered operations and enforcement of the sector. More on that.
As Uganda is set to join the rest of the world to commemorate the International Environment Day on 5th Sunday, the Executive Director, National Environment Management Authority, Dr. Akankwa Sabarayirega, has decried of less funding which has failed them to do operations.
Least funded, yes. Environment and natural resources sector is one of the least funded. It is true. I can give you the situation at NEMA. At NEMA, we only have resources to pay salaries. Only salaries and office running. We don't have resources for operations. We don't have resources for enforcement. And so these are realities, but government has committed to changing the situation. And we hope that going forward, the situation is going to change. The environment and natural resources sector is becoming a top priority of government. You had the head of state make it very clear that the only threats he considers for Uganda's economy are two. Relying on rain-fed or natural rainfall for agriculture, in other words, limited irrigation.
If we work together, we should be having the necessary resources to revert Uganda to that prestigious nation that was once, and actually up to today, we would want to keep it as the pearl.
He expressed no doubt that government will definitely consider allocating more funds.
And the second was degradation of sensitive ecological systems, which threatens the productivity of our economy. And so the head of state, if the head of state says those are two top threats of the economy, then you can confirm that there is clear prioritization of these issues. Is the fountain of honor, and if he thinks that these are top priorities, then certainly they are top priorities of government, and we have no doubt that the rest of the government machinery will follow the pronouncements of the head of state to allocate sufficient resources to address the key issues of environment and natural resources sector.
When we were at school, we were told environment is man and his surrounding. Once the environment, the surrounding you are living in, is not healthy, there's no way man can be healthy. The degradation of forests and wetlands has led to some diseases that used to hide in those forests coming to attack man. There are so many diseases that man suffers now, which is a cause of environmental degradation.
The goal of the environmental sustainability is to conserve natural resources and to develop alternate source of power while reducing pollution and harm to the environment.
But what NFA is doing right now is that they have started giving out to private tree planters, so that any kind of land that is idle can be planted, so that people cannot do what? Cannot come in. And again, we are trying to reopen the boundaries so that people are getting aware of where the boundaries do pass. And also, we also doing awareness so that people get to know us and get to know where the boundaries are, what is good and what is bad when you do what? When you encroach on a forest.
For environmental sustainability, the rate of the future measured in 50,000 and 100 years is the guiding principle. Many of the projects that are rooted in environmental sustainability will involve replanting forests, preserving wetlands, and protecting natural areas from resource harvesting. The biggest criticism of environmental sustainability initiatives is that their priorities can be at odds with the needs of the growing industrialized society. Bedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now, moving on to the energy sector, we've got some good news, especially to the Electricity Board. There was a signing of an agreement between the Electricity Regulatory Authority and Uganda Business and Technical Examination Board to increase the number of certified electricians. Now, the memorandum is an understanding to enhance cooperation and partnership with each other in order to ensure intersectional coherence and collaboration. This was done with an intention of growing the number of certified electricians. Let's get more on that.
The current shortage of tested and certified electricians is a problem for the electricity supply industry. But the bigger problem is the public's ignorance on the need of certified electricians undertaking electrical installations for their premises. In order to manage this, the Electricity Regulatory Authority, in liaison with the Uganda Business and Technical Examination Board, addressed the skills gap in the field of producing competent and dynamic electricians in the electricity sector.
Smile. You are smiling. Ear to ear. I'm not sure.
The Chief Executive Director of Electricity Regulatory Authority mentioned various resources that UBTEB in accelerating the training of electricians.
Memorandum of Understanding, ERA confirms its institutional commitment to the following. 1. In liaison with UBTEB, ensuring that there is sensitization of all electricians on the requirements of application for any installation permit. Ensuring that all electricians eligible for installation permits are provided with information on application and the necessary requirements. Carrying out interviews for all applicants and issuing of installation permits to the qualifying applicants. Providing the necessary support for electricians through licenses to enable them get the qualified required skills. Participating in the review of policies, plans, programs, and projects of UBTEB that relate to the activities regulated by the ERA. Maintaining proper records of activities conducted in respect of ensuring issuance of installation permits to electricians.
Onesimus Onyesije, the Executive Secretary of UBTEB, pledged commitment towards increasing the number of certified electricians by ERA.
We can deliver service to the public. There are people even who are not aware that if somebody came to work on your house, you should first even ask for that certificate. So that's an area which I think we shall emphasize, that people, communities are aware. I made a case when people go to farms to treat animals, they are supposed to record their names in a certain book. And one of the technicians said, I don't have time. So when we consulted, we found that actually the reason he was not writing, he was not qualified to do the job. But he's not even, the community is not aware that somebody should do what? Should be putting details down of what you are going to do. And even when you ask, if you ask outside and say, how many to pass for these installation permits, they are very few. You don't know. You see somebody coming, collecting the tree, what? You don't know what. But I think together we can make even communities aware that this is a requirement and somebody should have it, and the genuine one. Together with my team, we shall ensure close working relations with ERA in implementing the agreed upon commitments by our respective agencies.
He added that as a board, they will make sure that all trainees go through a certain assessment to be fit for certain professions.
We are working closely with the Uganda Veterinary Board. You know the Uganda Veterinary Board? To ensure that all our people who go through our training institutions go through the assessment and certifications. So when you employ a person on the farm, we should be with that certification. And that one, we are working with ICPAU, Uganda Institute of Certified Public Accountants, that the technicians have to go through a certain process. We work with the Uganda Institute of Engineers, UIPE, also together. But why we bring them on board is that ensure that whatever is taking place in training and assessment, they know, and we follow their standards, which are, so like the problem we are talking about, with time it will go. But also have to work with the urban planning authorities to ensure that those houses are not put up by anybody. You know, this Chiwakali can do anything.
Ronana Habwe, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now, with the continuous skyrocketing prices of essential commodities, Ugandans are allowed to go back to the garden and consume essentials right from the garden instead of spending more. The State Minister of Finance, who is also the Rubanda County East Member of Parliament, Honorable Henry Musasizi, asked people to embrace consumption of local products such as cassava, matoke, and Irish in order to spend less and curb the complaint of high prices. Let's get more on that.
Rise in prices of local products, there is a need in improvement in the supply of the product to supplement the high demand so that there is a balance between supply and demand, and in return leads to reduction of prices. While presiding over the priestly silver jubilee Thanksgiving of Reverend Father Charles Ranga, Honorable Henry Musasizi emphasized on the consumption on the local produces as a short-term solution to the hiking prices in the country.
In order to allow businesses to recover, we are not going to introduce any new taxes. Neither are we reducing any. We think the solution is to boost production, internal production, so that we reduce on the imports. If we could boost agriculture, if we could make interventions in agriculture, so that we have enough food which we locally produce, and we reduce on the wheat which is imported from abroad, and also other items. This can be, in the short term, it can be a solution.
On the same function, the Lubanda County West Legislator Honorable Moses Kamuntu asked the locals to consider using wetland for their benefits, saying that they will fully be evicted after President Museveni secures their compensation.
arangambira ngo abantu bari mu rufunzo nacyo cyandishijwe wenda mukakafunda bukuha mpaka hati abonere sente zo kugira ki zo kubashashura ngo barugemu ko ekindagambanye mukakafu efuka abatara mwazine fuka kandi ko twatandika batabatiniza gasaba yabagambira ko twatandika kandi minisitiri na kugambira ubwebe durenda kundura ibifunzo muhinge cyamana ari hano Minister Gaha abajura bakwata ubarakwata teresimu anterete nyirukange no wanemo muhinge president Gabone sente aijaz gabira bakama befunro muruge mumutebekine muzogurahana.
The same occasion was blessed by the Lubanda District Woman MP Honorable Press Akampurira, who asked parents to always pay fees for their children to go to school for a brighter and better nation.
Yenda kubagambira ebindi byonna tubikole kuko ekintu ky'okuhera abaana bitu ekintu ky'okuyanga abaana bitu bayega kandi barugamu n'ekintu kikulu muno kandi ekintu ekyolabasa kusitira omwana ne kalamu kubacho ekyo kalamu ekyo kipapula ekyo certificate y'imulyaga icho kyona kipapula kwonka nikyo kintu ekyo omwana atarabasa kuuza abo kuba omwana atakabuza degree yeeye kwokitaka enju ebyapa buli kimu emotoka wabisitiri omwana bamwe oramala kurugayo izooba nyesagala tantiye kulabuza ekitundu kyange na ningi.
Reverend Father Charles Ranga's Silver Jubilee was aiming at renovating Ramugasha Catholic Church, and a total of 60 million was collected.
Formator and rector and teacher. Kakora muko parish ndi headmaster wa St. Charles gwanga muko emyaka ebiri kusa nasigana kita mu government lero natandika kuba rector ngene myaka abiri ni 3 harabiri ni 5 njumazire ndo mutendeshi wa sasarador.
Catherine Namgera, Smart 24 Business Today.
Now moving on to women in finance, a study has shown that women are have the largest number of people who apply for loans. So women are advised to learn how to manage money before they start borrowing in order to avoid losing their properties to collateral security. Let's get more on this.
Based on a study done on gender analysis on bank loans, it shows that women borrow loans more than men. With the sensitization of having more female entrepreneurs in the country, women are forced to rely on loans to get startup capital. Winnie Nandaula, a programs coordinator towards the Incentive and Women in Self-Employment Organization, has encouraged women to be more cautious when it comes to loans. Father says women should avoid borrowing money before going through training on handling it and which sector to invest in.
Back alone is also mindset. Sometimes a woman will do whatever it takes to get life going. If they know that they can go and access money, then they will look at the issues later. It is a wrong mindset, but it also exists. I will not deny that there are women who go and withdraw and borrow money and are not able to pay back. But also they have not been sensitized. If you take on women and decide to give them money for loans and you have not trained them into how to create better income, generate better income, or make better investment decisions, then you're going to find such circumstances repetitively in the product. Because you can't put out money and then say, come and take money. But you haven't trained the person who is taking the money. Train them, teach them how to do business, teach them how to do investment decisions, teach them how to network, make them better people to take the money so that they can get better results from the money they've taken.
In addition, she says that whereas the difference is negligible, the fear of unnecessary borrowing might be resulting from the fact that women are reluctant to take risks and others don't have the required collateral.
Also, different women, different needs, but I don't want us to think of a woman as a homogeneous species. We are different in our own ways. The woman in the lower case needs a particular product, and also the woman in the corporate needs something totally different. So we need to think about these women and where they are, and we create products that are traditional banking. Women are required to take collateral. Most women don't have collateral. Most women cannot afford to use the muscle that men are using to get things done. They can form a consortium, but even if you put women into a group to form a consortium, you'll find that the time it takes them to put things together takes longer because they are not used to working in that sort of way. So you find that most times they do not qualify easily to get money like the men do.
Additionally, she says that women need entrepreneur training.
Need a product that is specifically made for them, a product that speaks to them. Right now we are going into the digital economy. Most women don't know how to use technology. They are shying away from these things. The traditional banks are not helping them much. So I think there is a lot to be done with financial literacy for women, especially in the digital part, to teach women and make them comfortable to technology, because things are going to be leaving them behind. As a way forward, let us train these women Let us give them literacy classes. Let us teach them about ICT and the technology. For example, right now, people are doing more business on e-commerce, but very few women are participating. And if there are any that are participating, they are not as many as the men. You understand? So we need to sensitize these women and do more trainings and do more ancillary services to the women so that they can uptake credit in a better way.
Barija Andrew, Boyinza Winnie, Smart 24.
So that's all we had for you today. This has been Business Today, recorded live from plot Nile Avenue, plot 42. That's where our studios are located. And I'm Miriam Wambete. Have a good night.